Hey folks, Quill18 here, letting you know that tomorrow, July 16th, there will be a mini expansion for Europa Universalis 4 coming out called Res Publica, and that will be paired, of course, with a patch. This will be patch 1.7, and the patch notes have been released, so there is a block which is the paid features. These are the things that you would need to purchase the DLC to do, and then there's all the free stuff, which are a lot of game balance changes. Some of the features that are sort of related to the expansion, and some things that they're just doing because they want to do for a variety of reasons. So the things that you only get if you have paid for the expansions are mechanics for Dutch republics, balancing the oranges for the status. Oh, so many typos. Yeah, there's going to be two factions basically within the Dutch Republic that you have to balance. One is sort of more monarch oriented, and one I believe is more like republic kind of oriented. And so you can choose which way you want to go, one versus the other. And there are events related to that, and they can also flip you into, I believe, a full monarchy if you go too far one way. Unless I am wrong, I believe that's what I remember hearing about. This is another big feature. Merchant republics can place trading posts in each of the trade nodes to boost their manpower. I'm not sure if you can do it in your home trade node. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I remember hearing that you couldn't in your home, but in either case, you can build one of these in each trade node on the map. You do still need to own a province before you can do that, I believe, but after you've done that, you can do it. It will give you huge amounts of trade power. And the idea here is to make it so that the Merchant Republic game really can be played without having to go and like paint the map. Because as is in the sort of vanilla Europa Universalis, if you want to get more powerful as a Merchant Republic, well, you still have to go and sort of conquer things. And it's a little harder to do some of that with the Merchant Republic because of how vassalizing and annexing of vassals works. Although, stay tuned down below, there's going to be some notes on that aspect. There's a couple more ways to play around with elective monarchies. Elective monarchies, basically, they play like monarchies, except the ruler, when an heir dies, is elected. So there are going to be ways for you as an outsider to try to get your dynasty in that realm, or if you are an elective monarchy, you can support nobles of your current house for the throne, is pretty much how I believe these works. I've never played with elective monarchies too much, so we'll see how it goes. Lots of events for Dutch republics, merchant republics, elective monarchies, and dictatorships. So dictatorships are a new thing right now. It used to be if as a republic, your republican tradition got too low, you could flip into a monarchy. Now, if it gets too low, you will install your current leader as a dictator. And then from then on, you can flip into a full monarchy, I believe. And then otherwise, I believe when your leader dies, I think it would just become a normal republic once again. We'll see exactly how that plays out once we've got our hands on it. And then the other big thing over here is the national focus here. Assuming you guys are all aware, the way you get your monarch points, admin, diplo, and military, is you automatically get 3 in each category. And then on top of that, you add whatever your king, his abilities are, plus, you know, advisors and whatnot. But you always got that base of 3 in everything. Even if you had no advisors and your king was a 000, you would still get 3 in every category. Well, now what you can do is you can prioritize one category, which basically steals 1 point from each of the other categories to put it in your one. Overall, you're still getting a total of 9 PowerPoints. It just allows you to focus somewhere. So if you really need some admin points for coring, or you need to get to your next idea group or something like that, you can go heavy admin. If you need to catch up in military, you could focus on military, and so on and so forth. It helps give you a little bit more control over the randomness that is, you know, what's my next monarch going to be, for example. So that's the end of the stuff you only get if you paid for the game. After that, we've got all the free stuff, and there's quite a bit of it. I'm going to try to flip through a little bit faster. Some of it's not huge, you know, changes to how, you know, legitimacy works, something in elections. Merchant republics no longer get +10 trade power, which I assume is to sort of balance off the fact that you can build trading posts, although this might make it slightly harder to work as a merchant republic in vanilla EU4, as opposed to if you had Republica. We'll see. I think, you know, it's probably required for balance, but it's kind of sucky that now playing as Republic without the expansion might be a little bit rough. It talks about the dictatorship category, which is the specialness of a dictatorship only works if you have the expansion. Other than that, it still treats it basically a republic. A few little tweaks here and there. There's some stuff up here I thought I wanted to see. This. Oh yeah, merchant republics have 3 factions now. Aristocrats, traders, and guilds. It works a lot like the, the Buddhists, the bureaucrats, and the something else that you get if you play as one of the Chinese nations. So you can gather, you know, you can influence who has the most kind of control and influence over your nation and get various bonuses, like a bonus to trade, a bonus to production. I don't remember what the aristocrats do. Bonuses to taxes or whatever. There's probably some other stuff going on. We'll find out once we start playing. That's in the base game. Yeah, dictatorships will revert back when the dictator dies. Legitimacy penalty, like they mentioned it twice. They're like, it's super important. This is a big change. You no longer will get a change to your manpower based on the production of a province, which is kind of a big change. So if you were producing less than one good in a province, then you would get a penalty to your manpower, and if you were producing more, you get a bonus. And it's quite important in low production provinces to build one of the manufactories because it adds a flat number to the production, and it was important to do that to really bring up your manpower everywhere. So that's not going to be there anymore. Instead, it's going to be military tech will automatically increase manpower. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's good or bad or neutral, but it's definitely a thing to note. A few little ship changes. This is a nice little bug that they finally fixed. So annulled treaties last 10 years instead of 5 years is what I believe it worked. When you force someone to break an alliance, for example, I think it used to be a 5-year break. Now it's going to be a 10-year break, which should mean that if you declare war and have Castile and France break their alliance, for example, then it used to be that they'd basically be able to re-ally basically right around the time when the truce broke, so you'd be able to declare war again. And now that's not necessarily the case, except that the truce length now scales with the amount of war score taken in peace. It's a minimum of 5 years at white peace, and the truce can be as long as 15 years at 100% war score. So if you take nothing in a peace deal, it's going to be 5 years, but anything beyond that, it goes up. Now, I don't know if it goes up sort of linearly or if there's breakpoints, like it's 5 years up until you get to 50%, then it becomes 10 years. And until you get to, or something like that, or if it's like, well, I took 38% war score, so now we've got a truce of 7.2 years or something like that. It definitely will slow warmongering quite a bit. Paradox does certainly like to do that. Whether it's good for game balance or not, I will sort of leave to other pundits, but it will definitely slow warmongering. You'll just sort of need to cycle your targets a bit more. It may make it a lot harder to crack the really big powers like France, because you're not going to be able to sort of keep declaring on them every 5 years and try to keep their manpower at a manageable level. Instead, after 15 years, I mean, 10 years is all you need to fully recover your manpower, for example. So we'll see exactly how that works out. Wouldn't surprise me if this ends up getting tweaked in a future mini patch. We'll see. Call for peace, independence. I read this at first. I was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. You can't diplo-vassalize with merchant republics at all. And then I read this. So to diplomatically vassalize someone, you have to obviously have a very good relationship with them. You need 190 relation, but you also need a royal marriage. And since merchant republics can't royal marry, they couldn't diplo-vassalize things, and they couldn't be diplo-vassalized. Well, now you can diplo-vassalize without a royal marriage, although getting to that plus 190 relationship might be very difficult, because royal marriage is usually where a lot of your bonus relationship comes from. So now you can do it without it, but specifically with merchant republics, apparently they're going to maybe have like an even bigger bonus. It might be something like, or a penalty, to the test. It might be like, oh, well, minus 25, we like our independence or something of that. So you're going to have to, maybe be much, much larger than they are before merchant republics are willing to consider vassalization. And I mean, historically, merchant republics were sort of independent things that didn't like to fall under, the purview of a king, right? That's what they literally, like, that's what a republic is. So I like the fact that it's now an option. Because it's going to mix things up, both playing as a merchant republic, but also playing next to merchant republics. Oh, and having a royal marriage now gives a bonus to acceptance when diplo-vassalizing. So we don't know what these numbers are at this time. It'll be interesting to see exactly how this plays out and how the math, one versus the other. I mean, merchant republics will be hard enough to diplo-vassalize without a royal marriage just because they don't have the relationship boost. So we'll see how it goes. Can't use claim thrones in countries with different dynasties, which I suppose makes sense. Some people are a little cranky about it because it makes it harder to spread your dynasty or whatever. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I mean, it seems to logically make sense. How do you claim a throne when you don't have the same dynasty? I don't know. Enforce peace, right? Yeah, some of these things are just more bug fixes or something like that than overall changes. Like, that makes sense. Selling provinces will give you inflation. So if I sell you a province and you give me 1,000 gold, I will get inflation from that 1,000 gold. Kind of interesting. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it is what it is. Yeah, this is probably a good idea. Declaring independence war no longer gives you aggressive expansion. I think that's probably a good idea. That little tweaks. Yeah, so converting to and from the emperor's religion will no longer affect imperial authority. And some people have indicated that there may have been like some sort of quasi-exploity stuff with like the Ottomans going and forcing people to become Sunnis through weird ways. I'm not sure exactly what this will mean. Maybe it'll make it less of an incentive for the emperor to convert people, or it'll just hurt the emperor less if there's religious conflict inside of the HRE, or because you won't lose the IA. On the other hand, it incentivizes you less to flip them back, so maybe it'll keep the religious disunity. I'm not sure exactly how this will work out. They buffed the trade buildings, which is probably a good idea, because in the last big patch, they doubled the effect of like important centers of trade and trade estuary. So now they're basically making the buildings sort of kind of as important as those things, and incentivizes you to build trade buildings, which have often been like a little maybe on the weaker side compared to some others. So I'm quite keen on that. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the effect will be there. What's interesting here is the revolt size will increase with overextension above 100%, which makes logical amounts of sense, but again, might make it hard to like really kind of go nuts with the conquering. We'll see exactly what kind of effect that does. Hindu Republicans, yay! Right, balance changes, bug fixes. I like this idea that if you're more than 50% in tech speed apart, you can't rival each other, because rivals are supposed to be people on the same playing field, with one exception. It drove me crazy. This happened in my Netherlands game, where like a 1 or 2 province Switzerland apparently had me rivaled and then kept doing spy stuff on me, but I couldn't rival them because they were much smaller than I was. So I couldn't, it was like, why can you rival me, but I can't rival you back? Well, now if someone rivals you, it's always a legitimate choice for you to rival them. I think that's great. This is kind of a weird choice that I'm not sure I agree with, because like, let's say I'm in a situation, you know, playing as, I don't know, someone, Burgundy, and France wants Gelra or whatever province, I'm not sure off the top of my head, wants one of my provinces. Well, theoretically, I could sell them the province, and then maybe they wouldn't desire that province anymore, and then maybe they would stop rivaling me. It probably wouldn't happen, but theoretically it's there, so now it's gone. Maybe there's some other exploit or something, we don't know. This is actually a nice little bug fix, because power projection was weird. You got power projection from taking land from a rival, but if you like took all of them at once, then often you wouldn't get the power projection. We ran into that bug in one or both of the co-ops I was playing. I can't remember which one, but it's like, that's incredibly annoying. You fully annex your rival and it doesn't give you any power points or power projection. Like, that's stupid. So that's been sorted, that as well. Little tweaks and balances, it's fine. That doesn't really matter. Centers of trade provide 100% more trade power and naval force limit. Is very interesting. Makes the important centers of trade even more important. This is interesting. So now if you're ahead of time in either admin technology or diplo technology, you will get a production or trade boost, which is nice because there's not usually as much of an incentive to being ahead of those two techs. Now there kind of is. There's not one of these for military tech, because the advantage of being ahead in military tech is that you can go and beat everyone up, and so, you know, kind of pays for itself. I like this change a lot. So if you're playing someone like the natives, you will no longer get like -3 power points in every group all the time. Is like so annoying, because it meant you couldn't really get a lot of power points to do stuff. Obviously the tech cost is still going to be high, but at least you'll get the points to spend. And I'm also a fan, I think, of the neighbor bonus for tech discovery being back up to 5%. So with I think it was 1.6, they reduced it to 0.2%, or to +2%. And to me, that was a bit rough. I like the fact that it's back to 5%. I think this is fine. More idea groups. So a bunch of little changes for free, actually. More idea groups, more policies, and quite a bit of rebalancing there. So it'll be interesting to see. It sounds like the AI is going to be a fair bit more competent about various areas. Building buildings is actually going to be quite nice. That's a few things that are mentioned in here regarding buildings. Some UI changes, other bits and pieces, including some new achievements. Get a ruler in your dynasty of the throne of Poland while they are elective. While they're in the elective monarchy, which I have seen Poland be quite often and for a while. I don't know exactly when they go in and out of this thing, but there it is. And a few others. There you go, Orangists and things like that. With Orangists in power, 100% Republican tradition, owning a province in China. Wow, that is quite the thing. Anyway, there you have it. There's a quick look at patch 1.7 in Res Publica. I look forward to playing the game, well, potentially tomorrow. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.